Overkill's The Walking Dead follows similar pattern to other Overkill Studios games. Like in Payday 2, you complete different scenarios that are slightly randomized. By playing you get different skills, upgrades and new weaponry. I don't understand why many reviewers dislike or even hate this game. I have played literally thousands of games during my life and this is not in any way a bad game. Just the sheer and very real feeling of stress the walkers induce is enough to push this to the top of the list for me when it comes to zombie games. Aim for the head and stay quiet or you are fucked. Strategy is key for surviving the hundreds of walkers when even 3 in a tight space are enough to kill you. Where and when to make noise to help out your team members, if shit hits the fan. The bad reviews and hating reviews I've seen complain mostly on certain parts of the gameplay. After playing the game I feel almost as if they are playing it like Call of Duty or Left 4 Dead and just not knowing how to play. In the game you follow your camp's progress from a viewpoint of all the playable characters. On the menu you can select missions from the map tab, survivors to send on missions, survivors to protect and help your base. Look at your inventory and manage your weaponry and the mods in them, upgrades to the camp and your playable characters. Lastly there is a lore tab to store all of the items and stories you found in the world. Managing your camp is important for the morale of your survivors. After every 3 missions or as in the game, after 3 days, resources will be used to either boost or lower your camp's morale. Survivor missions open after missions and you can micromanage your survivors to be sent on them. These grant you resources and items. Keeping survivors on stations at your base give your in-game passive bonuses. These are all fine tiny details that boost the main game and give a slight board game turn style to it. For this review I played mostly one character for 20 hours or so. Other characters I went through and played for a while just to know the differences and there are some slight variations. The characters clearly have a feel of a role with their either passive or active abilities, but they aren't there to define your playstyle. The story is not something to buy this for. But the missions and side missions themselves are well done. Replay value is high with different difficulties and variations in the levels. This is a key in a game like this as like in Payday 2, you will be playing these scenarios over and over through with different difficulties. Levels often consistent stages where you have to find key items to get to the place where the real objectives are. Enemy soldiers often make the mission harder as they are ready to raise hell when and if they notice you. This, like every other noise that happens in the world, lures in zombies. There are 3 different waves of zombies and of course the regular random spawns. When waves happen an enormous amount of walkers come through gates if you haven't been locking them or moving fast. On the 3rd wave the spawn rate is constant and you really have to hold on to your shit and nerves. Collecting car batteries, looking keys from dead bodies. Everything is fine and very basic. Looting through the levels is important as you find base resources, ammunition and even weapon modifications in there. The option to run guns blazing or sneak peacefully looting everything is enjoyable and whole presentation is actually. Everything kills you fast enough that you have keep your focus on the game all the time. For the sake of humanity it's nice to see that the community that plays the game seems to be like-minded. Most of the people I've played with are ready to communicate and no not make noise, if not necessary for everyone's survival. I've played some very hard missions even alone at certain points and the game gives you 3 revives. And the bonus in these is that the walkers really aren't that keen on noticing you if you are walking all alone and not making noise. If you start following, it's best to walk away and kill them further away instead of starting to brawl with them and making noise. Even climbing on objects like cars etc. is a great thing and works in this game. Just like in comics and TV series. Sit there and wonder your life choices, hope for the best and then try to make an opening.
I'm reloading!
At all times you carry 3 weapons, primary, secondary and melee. Founding new weapons and modification are well implemented. They hook you up and by upgrading your weaponry you actually clear levels faster or harder levels with more ease, which starts the loot loop again. Weapon types vary and every character has their favorites. boosting the weapons via skill trees, crossbows, shotguns, assault rifles, SMGs, rifles, pistols, revolvers, baseball bats, blades, staves and axes. From these categories you have different individual weapon models, and by rarity you increase their quality and equipment amount. These weapons are pretty straightforward, but the way they handle is great, and the lack of crosshair in the game make them feel just smooth and powerful. That is, if you know how to aim to the head. I've seen players who doesn't realize that these zombies do not die until you destroy the brain. If you hit to the head they go down easily from 1 or 2 strikes depending on your melee weapon. Firearms are mostly used against living enemies with weaponry of their own, because it's better rather make noise for short time than let them shoot around for minutes. Enemy variety is not large, but it doesn't need to be in a game like this which stands near realism. A lot of models for walkers and enemy humans is enough. In walkers there are regular, armored soldiers and bloaters, which explode from full of water and liquid when fallen. Living enemies carry different kind of armors and weaponry and are stronger depending on those changes. What comes to the controls is very basic. There will be no problems with any of the controls for anyone who has ever played any games before. That being said, controls work well even if you are playing on a high-pinged host. Game synchronization works very well and no moving or aiming ever were a problem. Gathering items and fighting of enemies works perfect, and in a stressful and time-sensitive game like this it's a must. AI for the walkers work well. If you can say that for undeads, they react naturally to you when you are just walking past, and the most closest you start following you rather calmly. When running they notice you much better and try to hurry after you. The only problem is somewhat ADHD living enemies. It's as they add blueprints work well, but sometimes when players close in from many different directions they might start just turning in panic. Walkers and soldiers hit hard, really hard. When fighting walkers you want to be on open area or climb up and stay quiet. When fighting soldiers you want to stay in tight corners and small areas to be able to deny their flanks. This creates interesting situations where walkers are closing in and you are forced to push to somewhere, since standing still is a suicide.
Reloading.
Visual and audio design are overall solid and good looking. There isn't really anything bad to say about them even though they are not the best looking. Sound work is great and the groans and noise sensitive enemies work very well with them. It's gory and fits perfectly with TV series and comics theme and the visual design. Unreal Engine 4 brings out the beautiful and scary shadows and lighting effects with its amazing and easily running engine. People are hating this game, but I feel like it's a misunderstanding. Either these people have no patience or are judging the game based on its beta and first hour. It's easily one of my favorite zombie/horror game. To think about that people are saying this is one of worst games they have played all year. To me it seems that the people have never played actually bad games. This game is awesome, and if you are on the edge because of the negative reviews, but feel that it looks like you'd enjoy it, you will. Just like me, this game deserves 9 out of 10, with few technical difficulties with cutscenes.
Reloading.